Hello and welcome to the next edition of our BedBiz podcasts. So today we're talking everything to do with training, apprenticeships, skills plus, etc. And interesting, on the very day we're recording this, I think Boris Johnson is going to be promising a skills revolution in the Queen's speech, which is very apt. So today I'm delighted to welcome to talk to our members Carmen Daley from FIESTA's Skills Plus. So good morning, Carmen.
Morning. Thanks very much for having me.
That's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We'll kick off, really, I suppose. For a lot of our members, I think everything to do with apprenticeships and training, etc., seems to be either a little bit of a mystery or they're really not quite sure how to take advantage of what's on offer. So can you just sort of start by just giving us an explanation of what sort of FIESTA Skills Plus does?
Absolutely. So, as you said, the world of sort of apprenticeships and the new Kickstart initiative, it can all be a little bit daunting and there's quite a bit of admin that goes with it. So, and a big part of FIESTA, who FIESTA stands for the Furniture and Interiors Education, Skills and Training Alliance, and a big part of their agenda was to really make it as easy as possible for member organisations that are part of the alliance, for their members to be able to drive forward utilising apprenticeships and different training avenues. So how Skills Plus sort of comes into that is we are an advisory and management service which are open to all those within sort of furniture and interior sector. And we can do everything from just sort of pointing you in the right direction of apprenticeships all the way through to helping with recruitment. We can actually employ the apprentice on your behalf as well. So it takes all of the admin off of your desk, or else we can just be there to help you get set up and then waved off into the big bad world. So that's kind of a little bit of a whirlwind tour of the different services that we offer to make it as easy as possible to engage with apprenticeships.
So I suppose it really is almost from our members' point of view, it's very much a time-saving exercise. So they don't have to get involved in all the sort of nitty-gritty, etc., which is obviously a key reason for them to get involved. So and is Skills Plus, it's obviously a management service. So is there a cost involved for our members?
Yeah, absolutely. So if a member is just looking for, really early doors, initial kind of, is there an apprenticeship in this area? Where would I look for a training provider? Those bits are all covered by their membership with MBF. However, if they wanted someone to get, a bit more of a comprehensive service, someone to really hold their hand, to really take a lot of that off the desk, then there are small fees involved. So that's everything from, sort of £150 through to sort of £1,500, depending on what service is selected.
Okay, all right. So a term that a lot of people will have heard of, obviously, is the Kickstart scheme, the government's Kickstart scheme. I wonder whether you could just give us an explanation of how that sort of fits in with Skills Plus.
Absolutely. So the Kickstart initiative was announced by the government as a way to really give young people aged between 16 to 24 the opportunity to undertake real job placements and to really get experience of the different sort of industries that perhaps they might not historically have thought of. And in order to make sure that, businesses were opening their doors and bringing in these young people, they've made it so that 25 hours a week is funded by the government. So and there's also a little training grant as well, which are given to the employers to make sure they're really investing in these young people. And what the hope is that they move through this 6-month placement that they have, and then at the end of that 6 months they will, ideally they'll be moving on to an apprenticeship with the employer that they've been with for the last 6 months, or they might be even just made a permanent offer to just stay and continue continue growing with them. Or else, if there's not a placement for, there's not a permanent role for that learner, then they will be waved off into the big bad world. But the good thing is they'll have had 6 months of industry specific training. So hopefully we won't be losing them from their, from furniture and interior sector, and they could ideally be picked up elsewhere. But there's no commitment from, the employer. If they know there's not going to be that placement, that permanent role at the end, then there's no commitment. They can still get involved in the initiative. It's really about helping that bounce back post-COVID.
Yeah, very much so. So can any of our UK members get involved, or are there any barriers to entry, really, I suppose?
Yeah, so everyone can get involved, and what happens is and if they want to work with Skills Plus to get involved, it means that we can handle the administration, because there is a little bit of a weighty kind of application process. If they come through Skills Plus, we've been approved as a government gateway, which means we can help any organisation that wants to get involved by undertaking a lot of the application tasks and training elements for them. So what would happen is you would become part of our cohort, so a number of employers getting together. You would assess what your needs are and ideally how many placements you would have. That would then be put to the Department of Workplace and Pensions, and fingers crossed you would be approved as a Kickstart employer. So to date, nearly everyone has been successful in getting through that process. There's been a few tricky bits. I'm sure your members would have seen in the media that it's taken a little bit of a bashing, this initiative, but it really feels from someone who's sort of been involved from day one, I really feel that we've turned a corner. And the processes are getting in place, and it's really the employers that have been approved are really starting to see some great candidates coming into sort of their organisations.
Did I read? Was there something around? It had to be 30 people. Where did that number of 30 people come from, Carmen? And how's that sort of been overcome?
Definitely. So initially what it was is that you could only apply to be a gateway employer if you could offer 30 placements. So that had a huge impact on, SMEs, because they, very unfair playing field, and for a lot of them they were going to be shut out of this brilliant initiative, and so what the government then sort of put in place was gateway organisations, and they could coordinate 30 employers with 30 placements and get that sort of approved and put through. So it was very much a case of strength in numbers and bringing everyone on board. Now they actually made the decision a couple of months ago to remove that 30 placement minimum. However, for a lot of SMEs who looked into the process of going it alone, so those that say had maybe 1-2 placements, when they looked into the application process, it still felt very, very weighty for them, and was going to be a real draw on both their HR and finance resources. So, gateways are still an option to help overcome that. So now you can certainly do it alone if you are a smaller employer. There's no longer that 30 minimum, but if you need a bit of support, then a gateway is still an option for you.
And to make it, most of our members, the majority of our members are based in England. Is it across the UK this, or is it different for the devolved governments in Wales and Northern Ireland, Scotland, for example? So
at the moment, Scotland, Wales and England, the programme is running exactly the same for once. Normally with training, it's all different in each of the nations, but it's it's all running the same. Now, Northern Ireland aren't currently operating a Kickstart program. There is, actually they have a program called Kickstart, but it's something slightly different, but they're not currently driving forward this particular initiative, but I understand there is plans on the horizon to get involved. But yes, if any of your members do have a presence in Wales or Scotland, then they can certainly get involved with this.
Okay, great. So, and just remind me again. So, what are the costs involved with the Kickstart scheme for our members then?
Yeah, so essentially there's not really a cost for them. So we operate as a gateway, so there's no cost for our services. So, and how we, the next question I always get is, well, how how do you guys cost cover in that instance? And the government does give us a little bit of money to help employers to move through this process. Then, the 25 hours, that is reimbursed to the employer. So there's no cost there, and any sort of additional, pension contributions, anything along those lines, all of it is covered, absolutely everything. And the 25 hours are paid at the national minimum wage for that Kickstarter. Now, if you found an absolute little superstar and you really wanted to, upgrade their hours, or you wanted to top up the national minimum wage for them, you can absolutely do that. But that would be a cost that you would incur. So it's, there would be a little cost there. But otherwise, if you just stick to the 25 hours, no cost to you. And then with the training program, so you get a £1,500 training grant. And so what the government asks is that you use that towards both employability skills and industry specific training. Now, you have an option if you come through the gateway. What happens is you can either, if you would like to run your own training program, you're very comfortable with the responsibilities, the requirements, and you're happy with that, then that £1,500 gets pushed back to you, and you can use that as you see fit. If you don't want to be responsible for putting together that training program, and again, that is something that we are helping members with today. We've given people, the options, and so far 100% have all opted to have that run by ourselves. So we've got work coaches, and we also liaise with a number of different training providers, and to get the best training and make sure everyone's getting exactly what they need for that Kickstarter. So again, there's no cost unless you want to top up training. There's no cost there.
Yeah, it seems like an absolute no-brainer, doesn't it? Really, and obviously, I think a lot of businesses, when they think about sort of taking on apprentices or somebody on a Kickstart scheme, they almost, the majority, I think of putting them into some kind of manufacturing or production role. But I'm guessing it doesn't have to be limited to sort of production roles, does it? It can be anything across the business.
Absolutely anything. So finance, marketing, warehousing. So to give you an example with warehousing, a lot of employers, they're opting to bring someone into that role, and then they use that training grant to help them achieve their forklift, to do the training and license acquisition. So it means that you end up with a forklift driver, or you're sending, a young person off at the end of that with such a key industry skill. Transport drivers, a lot of people are getting involved in that. HR, there's a huge, absolutely anything and everything that you can think of. It's really about exposing young people to roles that they wouldn't think to come into, or industries that they wouldn't think of.
Okay, so looking at the Kickstart scheme, if one of our members uses it and maybe gets say 3 or 4 people applying for one role, do they have to take one of them if they're not happy with the caliber of those 3 or 4? Are they forced to take somebody? No,
absolutely not. So it's really about finding the right person, the right fit. So if you did interview a number of candidates and you thought they're not quite what we were hoping for, looking for, then we'd sort of we'd work with them, we'd revisit the advert, we'd talk to their local work coaches who are helping tell the young people about the role, and then we'd also we'd keep that rolling until hopefully they do find someone that is a good fit for them. One thing we do really encourage is that for a lot of these young people, they have had their confidence shaken. We're finding those that are applying for a lot of the roles that members have at the moment, they've either lost places in hospitality, they left school last year or college last year and no one was recruiting, or the last sort of pool of candidates is displaced apprentices. So they've really had their confidence knock, and what we sort of say is, maybe try to think of not so much asking them the traditional interview questions. It's more getting to know a little bit about them and looking past that. It can be a little bit, some of their answers can be a little bit unpolished, but hoping to, hoping to sort of see that spark is there, and they might just be a little bit a little bit nervous sort of in that interview process. But back to your question, yeah, absolutely no sort of commitment, responsibility. It's when you find the right person.
Okay, great. And is there a time limit now on the Kickstart scheme? You know, is there a finish line?
Absolutely. So it's wrapping up in December this year. So
Right.
it will, yes, it will be finishing up then. Now, something which a lot of conversations we're having at the moment is organisations that have got Kickstarters in, and they're finding, you know, that they have got real superstars and they do want to move them on to apprenticeships. They are looking, there's a lot of lovely incentives around for apprenticeships at the moment. So they are making the decision that they might bring those candidates off Kickstart a little bit earlier than than previously planned, to get them onto that apprenticeship by the September deadline for the incentives. So, but otherwise, if you want to apply, want to get involved, then you've got until December.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. Still plenty of time. So sort of turning to apprenticeships in general. So I'm thinking specifically of our sector in bed manufacturing.
Sure.
We've just for our members' knowledge as well, we've just set up a trailblazer group, which is made up of a number of representatives from MBF member companies, and we're now working on an updated level 2 bed maker apprenticeship, I should say. And again, it's most suitable to help the next generation of supervisors or managers, I think, is the general way in. But what would you say is the value to our members of taking on apprentices?
I could talk about this for days, Simon, but there's so many, and it's really about you're building that future pipeline. You know, you're helping to fill that skills gap, which we all know is there and needs addressing, and and it is getting to the cusp of really sort of being a danger zone for us. It's, they bring energy and new skills and new vibes to the business, and we also find that and there are stats around it that there's a lot of they re-energize a lot of their co-workers as well, because when you take on an apprentice, you're committing to helping mentor them internally, as well as obviously the formal training they undertake, but you as an employer are going to mentor them, and that can really spread life and really show sort of other other employees that there's a lot they can be giving to kind of the next generations and those coming to the industry. And one thing that's really important as well is that you don't, when you talk about apprenticeships, there are no age restriction. As long as it is upskilling that role, then you can bring anyone in there. So, that could be you're taking someone who's going down a career change route. They have so many skills that they can be bringing to your business that they've, obtained elsewhere. And so it's very much a win-win from both sides.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, a lot of people think of apprentices as just being, youngsters, age 16 to maybe 21 or something like that.
That's it.
But you're right, with, retraining, I think is a key thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where apprenticeships are also playing a huge role in being a retention skill, but, sort of with the, sorry, forgive me. So that's
there's a lot to remember.
Yeah. So that's that's a place where apprenticeships are really playing a role in helping to retain staff as well, because some of us know organizations which currently have pay rise freezers or bonus freezers at the moment, and so potentially you could look to offer an apprenticeship which is very, very affordable, and that could help with retaining that staff member, because you are upskilling them and you are giving them those additional needs. And so hopefully they are seeing that as part of the long game for their career. The other way that it works is we all I know that in your roles you're asked to do more and more and more, and by being able to use apprenticeships at any level at any age, it means that you can really upskill your employees to be equipped to deal with that and be learning those new skills as they go along.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll obviously at the end of this broadcast, when we send it out, we'll put up your details and what have you at the end. But I mean, if our members are interested, is it just a matter of literally making contact with you, Carmen?
Absolutely. A really simple form just to see, just to kind of work out what it is that they're looking for direction in, and how can we help, and then once that's returned, they hear from us within 2 working days with sort of what suggestions are and what it is that they would be needing to move forward, and then they'll be rocking and rolling in the apprenticeship world.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, the service is there. It's available for our members, and almost I'm making a bit of a plea now to my members, hopefully watching this when we broadcast it, that if you have any apprenticeship or training skills requirements, then I would strongly advise you to get in touch with Carmen to Skills Plus, and I'm sure Carmen will be able to point you in the right direction and take a lot of the hassle off your desk. Carmen, thank you very much indeed for that. As I say, we'll put your details up at the end of the podcast. But thank you very much indeed.
No, many thanks for having me.